Nee, are you sure that thing's safe?
Oh.
It looks a little terrifying, and the lasers are... Oh, Ailani, what a beautiful summer day. We are out here in our new garden, which is pretty awesome, if I can say so myself. But hang on, what's happening to those plants over there?
I don't know. They look like they're
Dying?
Mhm.
It's not a good thing. You know what? Something is wrong with our garden, but I am not an expert on plants. Are you an expert on plants? Kind of? Really? When did you learn about plants? At school? Well, that's better than me. I didn't learn anything. But do you know who I do know? Professor Tallamy. Let's give him a call and see what he says about our garden. Hello, Professor Tallamy. Here's our question.
Why are insects so important to the garden in our world?
Yeah, why are insects so important to the garden, to our garden and the world?
Well, a very smart man named Edward O. Wilson, way back in 1987, wrote a paper that said insects are the little things that run the world. And by that, he meant that most of our flowering plants are pollinated by insects. So if we didn't have them, we would lose most of our flowering plants. And if that happened, the food that travels through food webs, terrestrial food webs, would stop, and all the animals that depend on that food, which is all of them, would disappear as well. He said the world would rot because we wouldn't have insect decomposers that break down nutrients very quickly, and all we would have is bacteria and fungi. So it'd be a drastically different world, and it would also be a world that humans would not be able to live in. So insects are really important.
Wow, that was so cool. Now, I think we need to do something.
And let's shrink down to bug size.
Shrink down to bug size? That's pretty cool. Now, Ailani, let's build a bug shrinking machine. I've got one piece here.
Another piece. Wow.
Look at that. Nee, are you sure that thing's safe?
Oh.
It looks a little terrifying, and the lasers are... Wow, we are suddenly very small.
Why are we so small?
I don't know, but it's nice because now we can go around and learn about our garden. Yeah, but first, I think we need to talk to Professor Tallamy. Find out why the garden is having so many problems. And maybe it's to do with the insects. Can you ask Professor Tallamy this question?
What insects help our garden grow better?
Yeah, what insects help our garden grow better?
Well, we'd start with those pollinators. Our plants would not be able to reproduce. The flowering plants would not be able to reproduce if something didn't pollinate them, and that almost always is an insect. And if they didn't reproduce, we wouldn't have any seeds, and we wouldn't have the plants to start the garden again next year. So that's really important.
Oh, hey, look at that. It's bees and...
Butterflies.
Yeah, Professor Tallamy talked about these being the pollinators. Now, I don't quite know what pollen is, do you?
Yeah, Dad, it's the powder in the flower.
Oh, the powder in the flower that helps the plants grow and to make more baby plants and seeds. And bees will fly in, pick up the pollen, and fly to another flower and spread the pollen. Butterflies do the same thing too.
It's a bee. It's so big.
It's a giant bee. Now, I wonder what he's doing.
He's getting the pollen.
He's getting the pollen, and then I think he's going to fly to another flower and get some more pollen. Now, when bees do that, they spread the pollen between one flower and another, which is what we call pollination.
It's a butterfly.
It is a butterfly, and what is the butterfly doing?
It's getting the nectar.
It's getting the nectar, and when it does that, goes in to get the nectar, it gets covered in pollen as well. And then it flies to another flower and spreads the pollen. That's why they're called pollinators. Now, I think we need to call Dr. Tallamy because our pollinators are doing good, but maybe there's something else that's happening.
What's the biggest danger insects are facing now?
Now, what is the danger they're facing right now?
Secret job of caterpillars.
Well, the biggest danger comes from we humans. We typically don't like insects very much. We don't treat them very well. So there's something called global insect decline. Insects really are disappearing all over the world, and this is a big problem. They're disappearing because we use insecticides too much and improperly. They're disappearing because of light pollution. We have lights on at night all the time, and our nocturnal insects are attracted to them and typically don't make it away from the light. So that's a problem worldwide. Climate change is a huge problem for insects. When you have a drought and it kills all the plants, or you have a forest fire, because of that drought, that kills insects as well. You know, every time we build a house or pave a road, we're getting rid of habitat that supports insects. So all of those things come together to make it very hard for our insects to survive and do all the important things they need to do for us.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. What animal is that, Ailani?
Caterpillar.
Now, caterpillars, Dr. Tallamy says, are very important for a garden. Do you know what they do? They're food. They're food for all the birds. Most of the birds in the garden eat caterpillars.
That is correct.
Which is... What's happening?
No!
Oh, yes! It's a bird, and the bird is eating the caterpillar. Because that's what they do.
Okay, the bird is so big.
I'm kind of nervous because we're about the same size as the caterpillar right now.
I think we should run.
I think we should call Dr. Tallamy, find out more about the garden so we can get out of here.
Why are native plants so important for insects?
Okay, that's a good question. Plants don't want to be eaten by insects, so they protect themselves with chemicals, call them phytochemicals, typically in their leaves, and it makes the leaves taste bad. So if you go out and you eat a plant, you're not really going to like the taste. Well, that's to discourage insects from eating it. But insects do eat plants by becoming very specialized. They get good at getting around the defensive chemicals of particular plants. So in order to do that, they have to develop enzymes that store and excrete and detoxify those compounds. They have to develop behaviors and life histories that minimize their exposure to those compounds. And once they've done that, then they can eat the plant without dying. I always use the monarch butterfly as an example. It's a specialist on milkweeds. So milkweeds are actually toxic plants. Not very many things can eat them, but monarchs can because they have the adaptations that allow them to do that. But if you get rid of milkweeds, you've gotten rid of the monarch, because now that's all it can eat. And that's typically what happens with host plant specialization. The insect gets really good at eating one particular type of plant, but it can't eat anything else. So native plants are important because our native insects have adapted to them. They have not adapted to plants from Asia or Australia or any other place, which means if we take away our native plants and put in plants from other continents, our insects can't eat them. And that's another major cause of insect decline.
Why are native plants so important for insects? Now, that reminds me, native plants are plants that are common in an area. You know, like if you live in a certain part of America and that plant is from that area, it's called a native plant. But lots of people have plants from other places in their gardens, and that's not so good for the insects. Now, here's our second type of insect. But I don't see an insect right now, I just see a worm.
Yeah.
But what is that title? The
Decomposers.
Decomposers. What is that? What is he doing? Whoa! 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 What did he just do, Nee?
He just ate the worm.
He just ate the whole worm. Oh, I got it. The worm was dead already, and then he eats it, so it decomposes it. Interesting. Oh, there's another worm.
Yeah, that's...
What will happen? Whoa! It's a giant beetle.
Wow, so big.
Wonder what the beetle's gonna do.
Who knows?
Oh! What did he do, Nee?
He ate the worm.
He ate the worm and he ran away. But hang on, this makes sense. Decomposers break down things and plants and animals that die. Do you think that's an important role for them to have?
Yeah.
Why? What happens if there's no decomposers?
There's gonna be dead bodies everywhere.
That's creepy. The garden would be just covered with dead worms and dead everything. Thank goodness for decomposers. But let's call Dr. Tallamy and learn some more.
If I plant more flowers, then will there be more insects come to my garden?
Yes, they will, particularly if you have flowers that are blooming all season long. Doesn't have to be one species of flower, but a sequence of flowers so that there's always some pollen and nectar available for the pollinators that are out there. Because most pollinators live a long time, and where I live in Pennsylvania, they live from April, right now, all the way into November. So we need flowering plants that whole time, or the pollinators don't have enough pollen and nectar so that they can reproduce. flowers. So that's the hardest part about making a pollinator garden, is having plants that are blooming all the time.
I think so. Wow, that's cool. So if we put more flowers in our garden, more insects will come. This is great information. And hang on. What happened to Mr. Beetle?
Oh no, he's dead.
He's dead.
He's sick.
Or sick. Something is hurting him. We better call the insect ambulance. Nee, you talk to him.
911. What's in your emergency?
No,
We have a
injured insect.
injured insect right here.
We need to save him.
We need to save them. Quick.
Oh, the ambulance got him. They took him. Thank goodness. That was very dangerous. It was very, very. But we still don't know what made him sick. That makes me worried. There's something in our garden that's hurting the insects that we don't know about. What should we do?
Maybe investigate the garden.
I think we do, but I think we need to call Dr. Tallamy to find out more.
What can I do today to help insects in my backyard?
Well, don't forget about your front yard, too. Insects want to live everywhere. We use lawn. We use turf grass way too much. In the United States, we have 44 million acres of lawn, which is an area bigger than all of New England combined. So one of the best things we can do is to reduce the area that's in lawn and put in the plants that the insects actually need. So it depends on where you are in the world, but in most places in the temperate zone, oak trees are the best plant for insects. They support more insects than other types of plants. So if you planted an acorn, if you planted an oak tree, you'd be helping an awful lot. The other thing you could do is think about the plants that may be in your yard that are from other continents, particularly if they're what we call invasive species. So they spread, they get into our natural areas. So our natural areas become loaded with plants that don't support local insects. That's a problem. So if you have any invasive plants on your property, you could remove them. That would be another important thing to do.
What should we plant? Now, thank goodness Dr. Tallamy told us some advice, and earlier on, he talked to us about native plants. Let's start off by putting some native plants in our garden. Do you see this one here?
Yeah, so beautiful.
This is beautiful. This is milkweed. Now, luckily, we put some milkweed into our garden, and guess what plants, or guess what animals like milkweed?
Butterfly.
Not just any butterfly. Do you know what butterfly this is? It's a royal butterfly.
It's called a monarch.
It is called the monarch butterfly. The monarch means like royalty. And monarch butterflies,
That one is they have most of them in like the movies.
they do.
The orange one.
This is right.
So beautiful.
They are beautiful. Monarch butterflies are famous because they get into these giant groups of monarch butterflies, but they love milkweed. Monarchs will not be happy if they don't have milkweed. Well, let's call Dr. Tallamy one more time.
What happens to birds if we don't have enough insects around?
I think they will die.
That's another good question, because most birds, even the ones that eat seeds during the wintertime, they cannot rear their young on seeds. The babies can't eat seeds. They eat insects. So we have to make the insects that birds need to reproduce, and they eat a lot of insects. So little chickadees, they are a third of an ounce. That's only 4 pennies worth of bird. It takes 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars to get one nest of chickadees to the point where they leave the nest. So we need plants that make a lot of caterpillars. Most birds are rearing their young on caterpillars, not just any old insect. So caterpillars become really, really important for birds. So we want to plant the plants that support those caterpillars. That means if you have a plant in your yard and you find a caterpillar on it, you don't want to go get a spray can and kill that caterpillar. That's bird food. You want to make sure you leave it for the birds.
Now, remember Dr. Tallamy said that birds eat caterpillars? So good. Now, we need lots of caterpillars for lots of insects and lots of food for all. Hey, who's that guy? What's he doing? Is he?
Wait, is that where we were?
Hang on. I think he's spraying insecticide. That's gonna kill all the insects. Hang on. We're the same size as insects. I don't feel so good right now. Did he just spray us with insecticide?
Oh no, the butterfly!
It's killing the monarch. It's killing all of the insects in our garden. We've got to do something. Oh no, monarch butterfly, you're so pretty, but you're dead. We gotta call Dr. Tallamy again and figure out what we can do.
Are there insects that are really good at cleaning up messes in nature?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. We call them decomposers. So if you actually look in leaf litter, the leaves that are underneath the tree, there are thousands and thousands of tiny, tiny little insects, things called collembolans, little springtails, or diplurans or proturans. They've got all kinds of fancy names, but they're breaking down that leaf litter so that the nutrients that are in those leaves will actually return to the soil, and then the tree gets to use it again. If an animal dies out there in nature, flies come right away and eat the animal essentially, and they're returning nutrients to the soil again. So what they're doing is recycling things that die on this planet and putting the nutrients back in the soil so that we can have life continuing in the future. Those decomposers are underappreciated. Most people don't even notice that they're there, but they're very, very important.
This is what Dr. Tallamy was talking about. Those were the decomposers that we learned about earlier.
Those are the decomposers.
Yeah, Nate, I think that we learned a lot about our garden, and I don't think that we need to be small anymore. I think we need to use our laser machine to get big again. But I don't know if I liked that so much last time. It was a really strong laser, and it kind of burnt.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. That felt very weird.
Papa Sean, my dad actually has a wig on.
I don't have a wig on. That's my real hair. It's not a wig. It's my real hair. It's growing out, so it looks fantastic, and it gives me more dramatic effect because, you know, like when I do the laser video, I can go like that, and I have to fix it afterwards. But we're back big again. Thank goodness we're big again. Now, Nee, how do we help insects today?
I have no idea.
Well, first of all, we need to change our garden. Our garden was filled with a bunch of non-native plants, and they weren't really good for all of the insects in our garden. So let's put in some native plants.
And 3, 2, 1.
Magic time. Are we gonna go like this? 3, 2, 1, new garden. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Now this looks like a much better place for a lot of insects to grow and live. Pretty cool, right? Let's call Dr. Tallamy and check in one more time.
Why do you think lawns are a problem for insects?
They're a problem for lots of things. I always think about my property as having 4 important ecological goals. It has to support a food web. So it has to make the insects to keep those chickadees alive and so many other things. It has to support pollinators, and we talked about why that was important. It has to manage the watershed in which it lies. Every property is in a watershed. And it has to sequester carbon. Carbon is causing climate change, and we want to pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and it's plants that do that and pump it into the ground and build their tissues out of it. Lawn does none of those things, and that's why it's a problem. Lawn does not support pollinators. It doesn't support the food web. It's not sequestering carbon, and it's not helping the watershed. So lawn is a good plant to walk on, but we don't need acres and acres of it in our yards.
Interesting. Lawns are not great because they don't give the insects a lot of places to grow. It's just one type of grass. But when you have a garden that's full of native plants like we have now, it's a lot better for the insects. I'm gonna feel good. Now, Nee, let me ask you a question. Which insect would you like to be?
I want to be a bee.
That's cool. I want to be a caterpillar.
No. I don't want to be a bee. I don't want to be a bee. If I sting someone, then I die, like after 1 minute.
Whoa, yeah, but you don't have to sting anyone, but I'm a caterpillar. Hang on. Caterpillars. Caterpillars. Oh no! Turn me back, it's a bird! Oh, thank goodness. That was really scary. I almost got eaten by that bird. Let's call Dr. Tallamy one more time and ask him what he would like to be.
If you could be an insect for one day, what would you want to be and why?
Yeah, Dr. Tallamy, which insect would you like to be?
Well, that's a very hard question. If you want to make a lot of people happy, you'd probably want to be a beautiful butterfly. Butterflies make people happy all the time. If you want to be very important in terms of feeding the birds, you'd want to be a caterpillar. But then you get eaten, so you may not like that. It's hard. There's, people like insects for different reasons. I would pick the one that makes you happiest.
That's pretty good. Now, he likes all those bugs, and you know what? It was a pretty cool garden to visit. Now, we learned lots of fun facts. Number 1, insects pollinate most plants. Number 2,
Caterpillars feed baby birds.
Number 3,
Decomposers clean nature.
Number 4,
Native plants, healthy bugs.
and number 5, less lawn
More life.
equals more life. Now, these... You okay there? Nice, you just had the hair thing too. That was our Sigma garden. Now, thank you guys for tuning in to our awesome garden. We will see you guys next time. From Ailani's Little World, don't mew. It makes you look weird.
Who doesn't? Makes me look Sigma.
Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.
See y'all.